What are you remembering, Billy? The cop put the handcuffs on very tight, and then he shoved a hot container of coffee into my hands and slammed the van door. When he started up, I spilled hot coffee all over my new suit. That's the last thing I. Where's my suit? It's in your closet, Billy. We can send it out for dry cleaning. The spots should come out. I feel very strange, he said. Would you try to describe it for me? Like something is missing in my head. A memory? No. It's like before the trial I was more together with all the others, you know? But now it's like there's more pieces missing up here. He tapped his head. Well, Billy, maybe in the next few days and weeks we can try to find those pieces and put them back together. Where am I? This is the Athens Mental Health Center in Athens, Ohio. He settled back. That's what Judge Metcalf said. I remember he said I had to be sent here. Sensing that he was dealing now with a partially fused core Billy, the host personality, Cole spoke to him softly, careful to ask neutral questions. It struck him how the change of personality caused a definite facial alteration. Arthur's tight-jawed, pressed-lipped, heavy-lidded gaze that made him appear arrogant had given way to Billy's wide-eyed, hesitant expression. He seemed weak and vulnerable. In place of Danny's fear and apprehension, Billy showed bewilderment. Although he answered the questions eagerly, trying to please his doctor, it was clear he didn't know or didn't remember much of the asked for information. I'm sorry, Dr. Cole. Sometimes when you ask me a question, I think I'm going to know the answer, but when I reach for it, it's not there. My Arthur or my Reagan would know. They're smarter than I am. They've got good memories, but I don't know where they've gone. That's all right, Billy. Your memory will get better, and you'll discover you know much more than you expect. Dr. Harding said that. He said it would happen when I fused, and it did. But then, after the trial, I came apart. Why? I don't have the answer, Billy. Why do you think it happened? Billy shook his head. All I know is Arthur and Reagan aren't with me right now, and when they're not with me, I don't remember things too good. I missed out a lot on my life because they kept me asleep for a long time. Arthur told me. Does Arthur talk to you a lot? Billy nodded. Ever since Dr. George introduced me to him at Harding Hospital. Now Arthur tells me what to do. I think you should listen to Arthur. People with multiple personalities usually have someone inside them who knows all the others and tries to be helpful. We call that an inner self helper, or ISH for short. Arthur? He's an ISH? I think so, Billy. He fits the role. Intelligent, aware of the others, highly moral. Arthur's very moral. He's the one who made up the rules. What rules? How to act, what to do, what not to do. Well, I think Arthur will be very helpful in curing you if he will cooperate with us. I'm sure he will, Billy said, because Arthur is always saying how it's important for us to get all together and get well so I can become a useful citizen and a contributing member of society. But I don't know where he's gone now. As they spoke, Cole had the feeling Billy was gaining confidence in him. Cole brought him back to the ward, showed him his room, and introduced him once again to his case manager and some of the other people on the ward. Norma, this is Billy, Cole said. He is new here. We ought to get someone to show him around AIT. Of course, Dr. Cole. But when she walked him back to his room, she looked at him steadily. You know your way around here by now, Billy, so we won't have to go through that again. What's AIT? He asked. She led him to the main entrance to the ward and opened the heavy door, pointing to the sign. Admissions and intensive treatment. We call it AIT for short. Then she turned and left. Billy wondered what he had done to make her so curt with him, but try as he might, he couldn't figure it out. When he learned that his sister and mother were coming to visit that evening, he became tense. He had seen Katie, his sister, at the trial, and as soon as he had gotten over the shock of seeing his 14-year-old sister transformed into an attractive 21-year-old woman, he felt comfortable with her. But his mother hadn't been at the trial, at his own insistence. Though Katie had assured him that his mother had visited him often at Harding Hospital and before that at Lebanon Prison, he had no recollection of any of it. The last time he'd seen Mom was when he was 16, before they'd put him to sleep, but the image in his mind was from an earlier time. Her beautiful face covered with blood, and a big chunk of hair ripped out of her scalp. That was the face he remembered, from when he was 14. When they came to AIT, he was shocked to see how his mother had aged. Her face was lined, her hair curled into tight dark ringlets, looked like a wig. But the blue eyes and the pouting lips were still beautiful. She and Katie reminisced about the past, each trying to outdo the other in recalling moments which had been confusing in his childhood, but which they could now explain as having been caused by one of the other personalities. I always knew there were two, his mother said. I always said there was my Billy and that other one. I tried to tell them you need the help, but no one would listen to me. I told the doctors and I told that lawyer who plea bargained you into Lebanon, but no one would listen to me. Katie sat back and glared at her mother, but someone would have listened if you told them about Chalmer. I didn't know, Dorothy Moore said. Katie, as God is my witness, if I'd known what he did to Billy, I'd have cut his heart out. I'd never have taken that knife away from you, Billy. Billy frowned. What knife? I remember it like it was yesterday, his mother said, smoothing her skirt over her long tanned legs. You was about 14. I found the kitchen knife under your pillow and I asked you about it. You know what you said to me? I think it was the other one who said it. Madam, I thought your husband would be dead by this morning. Those was your exact words, as God is my witness. How is Chella? Billy asked, changing the subject. His mother looked down at the floor. Something's wrong, Billy said. She's all right, his mother said. I feel something is wrong. She's pregnant, said Katie. She's left her husband and she's coming back to Ohio to live with Mom until she has the baby. Billy passed his hands over his eyes as if to clear away smoke or fog. I knew something was wrong. I felt it. His mother nodded. You always did have a way of telling tillings. What do they call that? ESP, said Katie. And you too, said his mother. Between the two of you, you always knew things, and you two could always know what was going on in each other's minds without talking. That always gave me the creeps. I can tell you that. They stayed for over an hour, and when they left, Billy lay on his bed and stared out the window at the lights from the city of Athens. In the days that followed, Billy jogged around the hospital grounds, read, watched TV, and had therapy sessions. The Columbus newspapers ran stories about him regularly. People magazine published a long article on his life, and his picture appeared on the cover of Columbus Monthly. Calls began to flood the hospital switchboard from people who had read about or seen pictures of his artwork and wanted to buy his paintings. With Dr. Cole's permission, he sent for art supplies, set an easel up in his room, and painted dozens of portraits, still lifes, and landscapes. Billy told Dr. Cole that a lot of people had contacted Judy and Gary about the rights to his life story, and others wanted him to appear on the Phil Donahue show, Dinah and 60 Minutes. Do you want someone to write about you, Billy? Cole asked. I guess I could use the money. When I get better and go out into society, I'll need something to support me. Who would give me a job? Aside from the money, how do you think you'd feel about the whole world reading about your life? Billy frowned. I think people should know. It could help them understand what child abuse can lead to. Well, if you really decide you want someone to write your story, you might want to meet a writer I know and trust. He teaches here in Athens at Ohio University. One of his books was made into a movie. I mentioned this only so that you can examine all the possibilities. You think a real writer would want to write a book about me? It wouldn't hurt to meet him and see what he thinks. Okay, that's a good idea. I'd like that. That night, Billy tried to imagine what it would be like to talk to an author. He tried to visualize the man, Probably be wearing a tweed jacket and smoking a pipe, like Arthur. How good could he be if he had to teach at a university? An author should be someone who lived in New York or Beverly Hills. And why was Dr. Cole recommending him? He had to be careful. Gary had said there could be a lot of money in a book, in a movie. He wondered who would play his part. He tossed and turned through the night, excited and frightened at the prospect of talking to a real author whose own book had been made into a movie. When he finally fell asleep at dawn, Arthur decided that Billy was incapable of handling the interview with the writer. Alan would have to take the spots. Why me? Alan asked. You're the manipulator, who is better qualified to be on the alert and make sure Billy's not being conned. Always the front man, grumbled Alan. That's what you're best at, Arthur said. The next day, when Alan met the writer, he was shocked and disappointed. Instead of a tall, glamorous author, he saw a short, thin man with a beard and glasses, wearing a tan corduroy sports coat. Dr. Cole introduced them, and they went into his office to talk. Alan settled back on the leather settee and lit a cigarette. The writer sat across from him and lit his pipe, just like Arthur. They chatted for a while and then Alan brought up the subject. Dr. Cole said you might be interested in the rights to my story, Alan said. What do you think it's worth? The writer smiled and puffed away. That depends. I'd have to know more about you to be sure there is a story a publisher might be interested in. Something that goes beyond what's already been published in the newspapers, and Time, and Newsweek. Cole smiled and laced his fingers across his stomach. You can be sure of that. Alan hunched forward, elbows on his knees. There is. A lot more. But I'm not giving it away for nothing. My lawyers in Columbus told me that a lot of people are after the rights. A guy came out from Hollywood to make an offer for TV and movie rights, and there is a writer flying in this week with an offer and a contract. That sounds promising, the writer said. With all the publicity you've had, I'm sure a lot of people would like to read the story of your life. Alan nodded and smiled. He decided to check the man out a little further. I'd like to read something you've written to get an idea of your work. Dr. Cole says one of your books was made into a movie. I'll send you a copy of the novel, the writer said. After you've read it, if you're interested, we can talk about it again. When the writer left, Dr. Cole suggested that before things went any further, Billy should get a local attorney to look after his interests. Columbus public defenders would no longer be able to represent him. That week, Alan, Arthur, and Billy took turns reading the novel the author had sent. When they were finished, Billy said to Arthur, I think he's the one who should do the book. I agree, Arthur said. The way he gets into the mind of his character is the same way I would like him to tell a story. If anyone is to understand Billy's problem, it must be told from the inside. The writer will have to stand in Billy's shoes. Reagan spoke out. I disagree. I do not think this book should be written. Why not? Alan asked. Let me put it this way. Billy will talk to this man, and so will you and the others. You might tell him things for which I could still be charged. Other crimes. Arthur thought about it. We don't have to tell him those things. Besides, Alan said, we have an out any time we want to use it. If things come out in the conversations that could be used against us, Billy can always destroy the book. How is possible? Just deny the whole thing, Alan said. I can say I just pretended to have a multiple personality. If I say it's a fake, no one will buy the book. Who would believe that? Reagan said. Alan shrugged. It doesn't matter. What publisher would take a chance on publishing a book if the man it's about says the whole thing is a lie? Alan has the point, Arthur said. The same holds true for any contracts Billy might sign, Alan added. You mean pretend he is incompetent to sign it? Reagan asked. Alan smiled. Not guilty by reason of insanity, right? I talked to Gary Schweikert on the phone about it. He said I can always say I was too crazy to sign a contract, that I was pressured by Dr. Cole. That will make it null and void, Arthur noted. Then I think we can safely go ahead and tell the writer to seek a publisher for the books.